Hello and welcome back to Rapid Reviews. My name is Scott and I am your host, and I will be taking you through today's episode, but I will not be doing it alone. Before I bring the guest on, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do all those wonderful things that helps the channel grow because we need that. Today we're talking about a Terrifier movie, and I'm not a fan of this movie. Like we done this on our full review show, you can go and check out. And I have issues with it. So I brought on a fanboy of this movie to come and defend it because I felt it was only fair if I'm reviewing something to give you two sides of the coin. Welcome back to the show. Someone who I've not seen for about 3 minutes since we recorded. It's Mark from Reviews from the Crypt.
Hello, thank you for having me back. I like coming on here because I love the intro music because that used to be our old intro music on the podcast. To hear it again is a nice nostalgia hit for me.
Yeah, it was too good of music to get rid of.
Yes. Oh, definitely. I miss it. I do miss it.
I was really proud when I made that, and then when we moved over and we started doing loads of stuff video wise, it was too long to do, so I condensed it. It's back. You're back.
It's back. Yeah. Hey.
We're going to kick off and talk about Terrifier, and I'm going to ask you to open this with your favourite scene, purely for the fact that I only have one favourite scene in this, and it's not a kill scene. And I'm hoping yours is a kill scene, because otherwise this might be quite a dull episode for people.
Yeah, my favorite scene is a kill scene, but it's also I have a love-hate relationship with this scene in particular, and more because it's very cool and I like how raw and gritty it is, but at the same time I kind of hate it on how it goes against everything I stand for with my love for slasher movies, and that is the Tara and Terrifier at the clown fight scene, and then he whips out the gun and executes her with the gun. Like, I like this scene a lot. I think the whole fight sequence between the two of them and she has the upper hand is really, really cool, up until the point where he's like, yeah, fuck you, bitch, I've got a gun. Bang, bang, bang. Game over. And I love this scene because it's really impactful and you're cheering her on. But I also hate it because he uses a gun. And that's not the only reason why I particularly hate that scene. It's because it takes a whole complete shift in narrative from that point on.
Yeah.
You know, you've been following this character from the start. She's your final girl. You're cheering her on. And then out of nowhere, well, not necessarily out of nowhere, but that her demise in this moment feels so abrupt. And then the entire movie just shifts and we follow a completely new character from this point on. And in many cases, I understand how that might work as a shock factor element. But I don't think it does that in this movie.
The gun left me dead. I was like,
yeah.
Okay. Right, he uses guns too. This is different. like that honestly is one of the most impactful moments in this movie because it just blew me away. Like, shit. And
yeah,
credit to Damien Leone. One thing he doesn't do, he's got lots of faults in his movies that I find faults with his movies. One thing he doesn't do is he does not play by the rules. He doesn't give a fuck what the slasher rules are. He doesn't give a toss what the rules of Hollywood are. He won't conform and go and work with a big studio to compromise what he wants to do. And I really admire him for that. Like on the success of the back of Terrifier 2, he had studios throw money at him. Oh, but you need to do this. You need to tone that down. You need to get a better editor and all these sort of things that would probably help his movies. And he's like, no. Like this is what I've got. You either take it as it is, or you don't have it.
Yeah,
I love that.
And I do, and I can appreciate his vision and his commitment to his vision. I think it's inspiring, and I think like a lot more movies and filmmakers in Hollywood and stuff like that should take note of what this guy's doing. But at the same time, it infuriated me massively. I have similar issues within Terrifier 2. Like, I don't get the whole supernatural element with the sword and the whole revitalization in the water tank and stuff, which I'm hoping's rectified in Terrifier 3. But knowing Damien Leone at this point, I have a feeling that it's probably not going to be. You know,
I have a feeling in Terrifier 3 we are going to get the real life Santa Claus go head to head with Art the Clown.
That's how wild his movies are.
Yeah, and I'm coming round to the idea of Terrifier 3 after being very annoyed that it was a Christmas movie. I'm kind of coming round to it now, and I'll see what happens.
And I think that's it. And I think the wilder he goes in Terrifier 3, the more it's like a real weird thing to say, but I think like the further left field he goes with that movie will make me appreciate Terrifier 1 and 2 more. Because as a standalone movie, Terrifier 1 has some very wild stuff in it that makes very little sense or reasonable direction to where he's going with his story and how it's all going to tie together. And then the resolutions you're expecting from that movie to tie into Terrifier 2 don't happen, and he goes in a completely wild different direction with that. If he tries to tie all this together, as much as that's what I want as a fan, I need to see conclusions to these arcs. I think if he does exactly the same thing again and goes completely left field with it all, I may appreciate them more in a way. And I know that sounds really strange.
Yeah. The thing is, honestly, like I really like all the elements they put into Terrifier 2. I really enjoyed the angel and demon aspects and all the mythology he pulled from. I thought that was great. If he can bring in a third movie and tie this full circle as a trilogy and tie it back to the first movie, like I'll be blown away. But I don't think he can. I think he's written himself into a corner now where he's like, well, we'll just have Art the Clown fight Santa. That'll do. I think that's where he is.
Have they specified that the third one is the last one, or are they just releasing Terrifier? Because in the day we live in, the modern era we're in today, we just assume that a trilogy is a complete arc, and it can't go any further than 3.
He's the new Michael Myers. We could have 15 of these movies.
Which I think we will.
Yeah, I think we will as well. Back to this movie, my favourite scene in this is actually the scene in the cafe when he comes in with his his indestructible bin bag of tools.
I mean, that's a fucking theory in itself, isn't it?
Like the scene where he's like giving the dirty look and then he smiles and the girl comes over and sits on his lap. We have all been out drinking and met this girl in a kebab shop. This girl is the most real depiction of a drunk girl in a city centre I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah.
We've all had this girl go, oh, hi, my name's Genevieve or whatever it is. Like, I'm going to sit here. Let's do a selfie. I'm going to post it. Like, those people exist. And he nailed that real element of real drunk girl so well. And it just made me smile. It's for such a gritty, grimy, brutal movie, to be able to inject an element of humor that kind of takes you out of it a little bit, I thought was really good. I really, really like that.
Yeah, I do. And I think that's a cool scene to highlight, especially given how dark the rest of the entirety of the movie is. I think that moment of, I wouldn't, let's say it was belly laugh comic relief, but I think that slight moment of comic relief is important because, as you know, I've seen the movie before this where he got his first start in fame, All Hallows Eve, and the last section in that movie is just, it's just horrifying from start to finish. The whole segment of him chasing down this girl, and when he gets her, he just mutilates her. There is no resolution to that story arc. It is just pure, almost like snuff film-esque, dirty, gritty, genuinely terrifying. Terrifying is the only way to describe it, because I think that is a really horrifying shot. So having those brief moments of let up in these Terrifier movies definitely works in their favor, even if it's just for a moment.
Yeah, and I think you need that. And again, it's something he done very well in Terrifier 2, giving us lots of exposition around other characters, that it wasn't just Art the Clown, which kind of brings me on to Art the Clown. I've seen so many people refer to this guy as an icon. He's not established enough for me to be classified in the same breath as Freddy Krueger or Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees or Leatherface or Pinhead. Like, he's a great character, but he's done 2 and a bit movies. Where do you sit on this? Like, I can see he's going to become a slasher icon, but at the moment, I don't think he's there.
I think he is already. I think he's already well established. And I don't think the responsibility of that status lies within the movies themselves. I think that's a mantle that is given to by the fans. I think you only need to have one movie to be able to claim that kind of title and consider yourself among the ranks of horror icons. I don't think a vast library of movies warrants that position. I think it's how much you are welcomed and celebrated by the people who are watching those movies. I can't necessarily off the top of my head think of a single particular movie that would I can. David from the Lost Boys has considered himself, that is icon horror status, and that's just off the back of one movie.
Yeah, but the icon horror status comes from transcending the genre. Like, David's character transcended horror. That's not just a horror character. Jason Voorhees is not just. They infiltrated every element of pop culture, like the Lost Boys, fashion, music. Like, there's so much more to it than just being a really cool character that the horror genre, the horror community love. And I don't think Art the Clown has stepped outside of, like, if you went and asked people who don't watch horror movies who Art the Clown is, I don't think they would know.
You see, that's the thing. I think they do. And I think the reason they do is because it's so much more accessible these days due to social media. Like, back in the day, you had to earn those merits with the movies and the advertising and the status that comes with it through content. But now, because of social media and how readily available content is at the palm of your hands, memes, reels, snippets of movies, trailers, I don't think it takes a lot for you to get your foot in the door to become amongst those icons. And to be honest with you, I think because of how impactful Art the Clown is, and because we've had such a drought since probably the late 80s, early 90s, I think Ghostface is probably the last of that generation. So to see somebody like Art the Clown today is so refreshing for people, and especially for people who are fans of those older icons, that they're embracing it on such a level that, you're right, maybe doesn't necessarily warrant it based on his back catalogue alone, but because it's so craved upon by people who are such fans of those previous historic icons, that when we do get such a glimmer of hope that this could be the next big thing, everybody's jumping on board it.
Yeah, do you think that they take it too far? Because one thing I find in the Terrifier movies, like in Terrifier, the scene with the hacksaw, like I feel that it's not required. Like, and lots of the great original slasher movies, the ones that are deemed iconic and are remembered forever, like the original Halloween, like the original Nightmare on Elm Street, like Friday the 13th. They have, Halloween doesn't, but they have gore elements to them. But I don't think they ever pushed it as far as Damien Leone does. For me, I kind of find a lot of what he does is very much, I find it almost like he's going, look at what I can do with practical effects, as opposed to bringing me something that adds to the movie.
He does, and that's exactly what he does. He's a practical effects artist. That's how he started out. And when he did All Hallows Eve, that was him showcasing his abilities as a practical effects artist. And I think it's a catch-22 with the Terrifier movies, again, because I don't think Damien Leone set out to shock people. I don't think that was his intention. I don't think he put these scenes in these movies to be like, I'm going to shock everybody with how great and how graphic my scenes are. Because there is an entire subgenre of movies out there that do this same sort of thing, and they probably do it better. But again, it brings us back to the whole how well embraced Art the Clown has become and how much he appeals to so many people who aren't necessarily hardcore horror fans and aren't fans of that darker side of horror. So when those kind of people come into the movie, they feel so disgusted by it. But Damien Leone didn't set out to make this movie for the masses. I'm sure he's reaping the benefits of how successful it's been,
Oh
but
yeah, definitely.
I don't think his intention was, I'm going to shock everybody with this. I think he appreciates that side of horror. He appreciates the showcase of practical effects, and he thought, right, this is going to be a really cool practical effects. It's going to be gnarly. It's going to be gory. I want to put this in my movie, and it's going to look fantastic. And all those people who love the really grotesque side of horror are going to love this movie. But due to its success and how mainstream it's become, the masses that have seen it, who aren't used to this level of gore and this level of violence, are seeing this and saying, this is shocking, this is disturbing. But it's not made for you. If this isn't your type of movie, you know, like, you shouldn't be watching it if you're going to just badmouth it based on a simple scene that, let's be honest, yeah, it's gross, it's awful, it's graphic, but it's fucking cool. And from an artist standpoint, to showcase something that shocked such a wide amount of people based on a bit of jelly and some fake
Yeah,
blood, it's fucking incredible in my opinion. And I think props to Damien Leone for what he's done. And he took it to the next level with Terrifier 2. That scene in that bedroom is one of the most graphically violent things I have ever seen in my entire life. And I have seen some horrific horror movies.
no, still the worst for me is the acid and rubbing salt into the wounds. That's still the worst for me
Yeah,
in the
that's what I mean
bathroom.
in Terrifier 2.
Yeah,
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 yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, sorry, that's what I
yeah,
was referring to. That scene is
yeah,
like the most graphic thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I've
yeah.
not, and I've seen some dark horror movies, and I've never seen anything so
No,
vulgar and distasteful as that. But for
which
me,
begs
as
the
a horror
question:
fan,
like,
I love it. I love it.
where are you? So we're about midpoint. So we score midpoint. I'm going to score Terrifier. We're only talking about Terrifier, not Terrifier 2, because I score that really high. Terrifier, I score a 1 out of 5. I think it's
Yeah,
badly directed, it's badly lit. It has so many continuity and plot holes, you could drive a bus through it. I don't connect with any character. The one character I do connect with, they kill. I don't think it's a good movie, but I understand why people do like it. Where are you with your score?
I'm a 3.5, somewhere around that ground mark. I have exactly the same issues as you. I love Tara in that movie. I think she's phenomenal, and she was the one female final girl that I've rooted for the most in years of watching horror. I loved her. I thought, yes, you are great. You're doing such a good job. To kill her off like they do left a sour taste in my mouth. I didn't gel with the character they introduced in the last 20 minutes, and from that point on, the entire movie fell apart for me. But there
Yeah,
is so much in that movie that I do appreciate and I do enjoy, but I just felt like that particular scene was a really, really bad call on his part.
yeah, and this brings into one of the things I think is the best about Damien Leone because he is an independent filmmaker and he's making low budget movies for a select audience. When the audience say things to him, he actually listens and he acts upon them. And the Final Girl one is a big thing. Every negative review of Terrifier mentions the fact that they kill Tara, and it's a bad decision. And in Terrifier 2, we get Sienna. He's got a final girl who survived. So he heard everyone go, why did you kill the final girl? And then he brings you a final girl and doesn't kill them. I think he's
Yeah.
very good at listening to what his audience say. And he's got the best fucking marketing team of any movie company ever.
In what way?
Us. Us.
Oh, well, yeah, of course, us, the
Like
fans.
you look at like a Blumhouse or an A24 or a bigger studio, they pump millions and millions of dollars into advertising. Damien Leone releases a couple of clips, and the horror community take those clips, we edit them, we make them look different, we add bits into them, we talk over the top of them, and we market his shit, and everything goes viral.
Yeah, yeah.
So clever.
It is, and the thing is, like, I don't think any of this is intentional.
No.
at all. I think it's just happened organically. And I think that's why the community is embracing it as much as it is, because it doesn't feel pushed, it doesn't feel forced. And you talk about how we as a community are showcasing it. People who aren't in the community are also showcasing it because they're talking about how disgusting and how disturbing it is. But you know full well that every single one of them is curious as hell to see how far he goes in the next movie. So
And
he can't lose.
no, that's the best bit. He's got people like with a picture of Art the Clown behind them on a screen going, "This is the most shocking movie ever. I can't believe it's been made. I'm outraged. I'm upset. I'm offended." And the 300,000 people they reach, 20-30% of them are going to go, "I need to see that movie." And it's just genius.
Not just that, but the ticket sales alone from the amount of journalists who are going to want to be there on opening night so they can get the first scoop on how disturbing this movie is. It's almost like Wolverine and Deadpool level, I think, with Terrifier 3. Is they're going
Yeah.
to want to be there first because they're going to want to get the first story out. They're going to want to get the
Uh,
first scoop out.
I,
It's going to be phenomenal
I
ticket sales for Terrifier 3.
I hope he goes that level. I hope he goes to Deadpool level and we get a portal with Michael Myers stroll through it. That would be incredible.
I don't think he'd have the rights to do that, but it would be fucking cool if he did.
One thing I want to question, in fact, two things I want to question. There's a scene in this where they're in the warehouse and all of a sudden Art goes for a ride on his tricycle. Now, I'm assuming his tricycle was in the black carrier bag that he's lugging around. My question lies with, is he a dark version of Mary Poppins?
Yes, probably. Oh, he's like Santa from what's that one with the dude from Stranger Things?
Violent Night.
Violent Night, yeah.
Like the whole bag thing, like that is the biggest plot hole ever. And at no point does Damien Leone try to explain it. And in Terrifier 2, doubles down on the abilities of the bag.
I hope he never does. I think that's one of those things that I would never like to have an answer to.
Do you reckon maybe it's going to be explained in Terrifier 3 because we'll actually have Santa there? Could you imagine?
Can you imagine, like, if he nicks Santa's bag and it just turned into a bin bag because he's got a dark soul?
The possibilities are endless. And like I dislike this movie, but I want to say I am fully behind the Terrifier franchise. The fact that it came from nothing and has been handcrafted and built by a couple of people into what it is, I think it's amazing.
I do too. I do too. I don't necessarily like All Hallows Eve. I like the last segment in that movie, the main focus of Art the Clown. I
Yeah,
don't particularly like Terrifier 1. I think there is a lot as a horror fan to appreciate from that movie, but I wouldn't ever recommend somebody watch this
no,
as a non-horror or even just as a casual horror fan, because I don't feel like anybody would be able to appreciate this movie on the same level that a lot of us do. Terrifier 2, for me, I don't particularly like Terrifier 2 that much. I've seen Terrifier 2 maybe once, possibly twice, but there's enough, maybe half of that movie that I love, but there's also 50% of that movie that I don't like, and directions that he takes with that movie that I don't like. And I feel like that's going to be a continuing sort of ski slope throughout this movie's
yeah,
progression and installments. And I think at the same time, as much as I'm saying I dislike certain things and I love certain things, every time I come back to, yeah, but he's doing what he wants to do. And for that reason, I have to applaud him for it. Because I
yeah,
feel like more movie directors should be doing the same thing.
uh, we always talk about, like, on our show, we always talk about studio interference and how studios will take an idea that a director's got and burn it to the ground and make them rehash something else that's not as good.
Yeah.
With Damien Leone, what you get is what he intended every single time, whether that's good, bad, or somewhere in the middle. it's done without anyone else sticking their nose in and going, I don't like that, you need to change it. And I think it's brilliant.
Yeah. I think it comes down to creative control. And I think one thing that studios need to do is relinquish more creative control to their writers and their directors. If they have enough faith in a basic script to fund the project, then they
Look at
shouldn't
what
be interfering with the end game. They should be saying, right, we have enough faith in what you're doing for us to give you this kind of money. So we're not going to tell you how to end it. We're not going to tell you how to edit it. We're not going to tell you what
yeah.
music to put into it. That's cool for the audience of TikTok today.
Uh,
You do what you do, and we'll see how it pans out. If it's dog shit, you won't be getting another one from us.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you now a tidbit that Mark's going to really love or really hate. I'm not sure where it's going to go. But if we did not have studio interference, the movie Halloween 4, which I have huge issues with, and we're not going down that path.
You love it. You love it. You've already said you love it.
At the end of that movie, we would have got a 15-foot tall giant Michael Myers throwing cars around.
Yes, which would have been epic.
And that
they probably wouldn't, but all right, that's one time studio interference was probably relevant.
Joking aside, though, could you imagine what the Halloween franchise would have become had they gone that route?
Oh, it would have been amazing.
Halloween 5 would have been like Godzilla versus Laurie Strode.
But then you could have done that, and you could have had like a whole horror mashup universe thing. You could have explained how Michael Myers went into this vapor barrier that made him grow to 15 feet tall. You could have put Freddy in it. You could have had like a King Kong Godzilla thing with Freddy and Michael just smashing up New York City, having a big battle. That would have been epic.
Yeah, it would have been. And I think on that weird no, it's a time to call close to this. Make sure you go and follow Mark. He's at Reviews from the Crypt on Instagram. Also at VHS from the Crypt, where he showcases his awe-inspiring collection of VHS. However, I have got a new VHS that Mark does not own, and I'm quite proud of it. So I'm going to showcase it, which is that one.
Oh, very, very. I love it. Do you know what? I love that cardboard release. The only one I have of that. In fact, cool. I have Clockwork Orange and I have the Matrix movie in that cardboard release. Not a lot of movies got it here in the UK, but I wish all the VHSs were on that format.
Yeah, that one's super cool. And also I picked it up for 50p, so it's the biggest bargain in the world.
Definitely.
And on that note, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what your thoughts are on Terrifier, good or bad. See if you agree with me or Mark. Also, let us know if you would like to have seen a 15-foot Michael Myers. We already know the answer. And we'll catch you next time. So thank you very much for watching and see you all later.
Cheers, guys.